Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Dan Cardellichio. I want to welcome you to the Destination Health Podcast powered by the Suburban Wellness Group. Want to thank everybody for listening in today. Our podcast is growing, and we want to thank everybody for the support. And it's all because of the guests that we have on our podcast, and today is no exception. I'm very excited to get into the conversation. Nina DiTommaso, how are you today?
Yeah, I'm doing great.
Excellent.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's all good. So let's go over Nina's bio. Geez, I can read this for an hour, and we wouldn't even scratch the surface. There's so much, but let me just pick a couple of areas. So Nina was born into a large Italian family. I like that. So she was born to Rudolph and Vivian. That's great. Brianna and Alyssa are her sisters, and she's been very active throughout all of her life. Dance, gymnastics, and cheerleading. That helped her develop that competitive spirit and that athletic physique that she has. She's passionate about health and fitness, firm believer in total health, mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, which is very important. Now, you didn't know this about Nina. She's got a bachelor's in psychology. She's got a master's in mental health counseling, and she's going for her Ph.D. as we speak. And she's going in counselor education. She's a fitness coach. She helps out a lot of clients. She is a bikini competitor. She got her IFBB card in 2006. So you've been doing this for a while, right? Yeah. And you went from IFBB Pro Figure to Pro Bikini recently. You have an ebook, and welcome to the show. So how did you get into being a bikini competitor? What was that motivating factor?
Well, I've always had that competitive spirit, like you mentioned. And, after I did, competitive cheerleading and gymnastics, I was looking for something once I came to college, once kind of that chapter of my life closed. And so I started working out, here in Knoxville. And at the time there was a powerhouse gym. The person who ran the bodybuilding show here in the area actually asked me to hand out the trophies at the contest. And so that's all it took. I went there, I saw the figure girls for the first time. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I want to do this. And
this is what you want to do. Let's just go do it. And you just decided, okay, let's start training for this, right?
Yeah. And I mean, at the time, like I was in the gym already a lot, and I was pretty lean. I stay pretty lean consistently. And so, I mean, I just took a few weeks and I got on stage to do my first show.
Really? So just a few weeks, you didn't go through a whole prep?
Yeah.
Because when I'm dealing with those individuals that are going to go on the stage, whether it's a male or it's a female, the prep stage, I work with them nutritionally. It takes a period of time. So you must have been in pretty good shape at that point.
Yeah, and I mean that's not something I would recommend.
Right.
Most people need, if you're just starting out, you need time to really like shape your physique and get the symmetry, based on which division you're going to go into. Most people will take at least 12 to 16 weeks to like prep for a show.
That's what we do is about 12 weeks, a little bit more than 12 weeks. Now, this was in the early 2000s, it seems like. And who were your mentors? Who did you look up to in the community at that time?
Honestly, the person that I really looked up to was Monica Brandt.
Yep, everybody looks up to Monica, right? She was the big name, along with somebody else, Jenny Lynn, right? Jenny Lynn was a big name. Also, she gave her a run for her money back then. I know Jenny Lynn, that's why I'm mentioning her name.
Yeah.
So that's all good. So let's go back. And you're growing up in the large Italian family. I always like to ask, how was that? Did you love it? Does your dad make homemade wine? I got a whole bunch of homemade wine, so, you have to, whether you drink it or not, if you're Italian, you have to make it, right?
Yeah. So what's really funny about that is that my dad actually owns a vineyard and a winery.
So your dad's a vinter?
Yes.
Oh, I'm going to have to speak to your dad. I want some tips want some tricks of the trade.
Yeah. So he did used to just do it on the side, like as a hobby.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, he's kind of like a jack of all trades. My parents have been together for a long time, you know, 45 years. Um, I'm the oldest, you know, I have two sisters, like you mentioned, and, you know, everybody is very passionate, you know, very loving. Everybody's loud and in your face. Um, so if anybody gets into a disagreement, you know, they might get a little bit heated, but then it's kind of like, okay, let's work it out, move past it, put it behind us. And, you know,
So everybody's, eating and everybody, maybe a little arguing going on. And then the Chianti comes out and it kind of settles everything a little bit and everybody's happy. Nina, that's the way I do it in my house. So you believe in a total health, mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual. Talk about each one of those components and how do you apply that to your life?
um, well, you know, people tend to just focus in on like one or two things. You know,
Mhm,
they forget about the other domains, you
mhm,
know, and how much that can impact their life. So for instance, like if somebody starts out with
mhm,
like focusing on like physical, like, okay, you know, I'm overweight, you know, the doctor
mhm,
told me I'm overweight. They're not really taking into account like how much, you know, kind of like their history or like, you know,
mhm.
modeling behaviors, you know, genetics, all of those things come into play. You know, like what is my thought process surrounding food? You know,
Right.
how am I dealing with my emotions and how does that play into like my eating behavior?
Mhm.
So it's not as simple as just like, okay, I'm going to eat healthier and I'm going to start going to the gym.
Right.
Like, what's their attitude that shapes that?
Right.
Um, you know, and so just with self care as well, you know, what am I doing for my emotional health? What am I doing for my, you know, mental health?
Right.
You know, have I worked through that, you know, past trauma? Is there anything that I'm avoiding? Um, but then a lot of times too, like some counselors or therapists will shy away from like talking about spirituality with their clients.
Mhm.
And that's not really something that I'm scared, you know, to talk to them about. You know, sometimes they dance around it or they might wait for a client to bring that up because their beliefs might be different from their
Mhm.
client's beliefs. And so we can't forget about that, you know, talking
Right.
about the importance of like meditation or the importance of prayer, you know,
Right.
just
Sure.
them identifying like what their higher power is and
Right.
differentiating between like spirituality and religion and like not being afraid to talk about it.
Right. I find this fascinating because when you were, talking about food, we're living in parallel universes, not only being Italian, but, being healthcare providers. I put down relationship with food because I'm always talking about relationship with food with my patients. And it was interesting because I did a podcast with Ian Smith a week or so ago from that TV show, The Doctors. And he and I were speaking about weight loss. And he said, you have to go from the neck up first.
Hmm.
You have to have that mindset in order to have a better relationship with food, in order to lose weight and to have a healthier lifestyle. What are your thoughts about that?
I mean, I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
For example, like with my dissertation, I'm working with people that have had bariatric surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, while that has been proven to be, you know, a very beneficial thing for people that are, you know, morbidly obese,
Mm-hmm.
you know, they have a lot of health complications in
Mm-hmm.
conjunction with that. You know, it's a quicker way for them to, you know, lose the weight, you know, so
Sure.
that they're not at risk, you know, with
Mm-hmm.
their heart or with diabetes, or like some of the other complications that come along with being, you know, very overweight like that. Um,
Absolutely.
but a lot of them like just have a psych eval and then, you know, they go
Mm-hmm.
to have the surgery,
Right.
but they don't have the counseling that comes along with that to really
Right.
address the underlying issues as to why they got so overweight to begin with.
So do you see a lot of clients that way in your private practice?
Um, yes, you know, that
So
they're,
so
you know, working out and, you know,
mhm,
trying to eat healthy, but
mhm,
they're not really sure like why they're not losing the weight. Some of it is
right,
just because of lack of education, you know, just not knowing enough about like metabolism or like the breakdown
right,
of what to eat or when to eat.
I agree with you, because you don't know what you don't know, right? And
Right.
that's extremely important when it comes to this, because you go on the internet, right, Nina, and there's so many different types of diets. There's so many different experts and so forth, right?
Yes. Yeah. But I mean, just our society, like celebrations, so much is surrounded around like food and alcohol
Mm-hmm.
now. And so, like, if you have like any of those compulsions or those addictive tendencies, like it makes it very difficult. Um, and I'm sure that you've heard about some of the studies, like, just sugar, like what it does to our brain, like with the reward pathway,
Yep.
and, just like it making us feel good.
Mm-hmm.
But that good feeling is only temporary. After that, then,
Mm-hmm.
we're sitting there like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't have eaten that, that guilt and that shame that comes along with like the
You
after effect.
feel so bad. You feel so bad. So how do you work with a client that's going through this?
Um, with cognitive behavioral therapy,
Mm-hmm.
and just really helping them to identify their thought process, and take a look at like their, um, behavior patterns,
Mm-hmm.
and, kind of what's good, what they need to change, maybe they need to replace like some of that problematic
Mm-hmm.
eating behavior, like with better
Mm-hmm.
habits.
Right. Sure. What what is the what are the top two or three emotional blocks that you see with somebody who wants to lose weight and is having a very difficult time with that?
Um, Trauma, a history of
Trauma.
trauma.
What type of trauma? Any type of trauma. It could be childhood. Is it physical? Is it emotional? Is it both?
Yeah, it can be both,
Mm-hmm.
just, yeah, if they've had any type of abuse,
Mm-hmm.
that could be like verbal, sexual, or
Mm-hmm.
physical, bullying, just depending on their past, like, messages that they received, like from other
Right.
people,
Right.
um, just in line with that. The other thing is just self-esteem, like how they feel about themselves, like how compassionate are they, towards themselves? Like, are they loving themselves like in an unconditional way
Mm-hmm.
or conditional way? And then how much of that is tied to, their relationship with food?
Mm-hmm. Self-care is important. That's what we're talking about here for those of us that are listening today. And it's okay to have self-care, right? There's nothing wrong. It doesn't mean you're a narcissist, doesn't mean that you're whatever. You have to really have self-confidence. You have to love yourself, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, because if you don't have that, it's going to be a very difficult situation. All right, here's an off-the-cuff question. What's your favorite Italian dish?
Oh gosh.
I made you smile on that one.
Probably gnocchi.
You like gnocchi. I like gnocchi too.
Yeah.
My grandmother's and my mother's homemade manigot. Oh my God, I'm having a Pavlovian reaction right now, and and I haven't seen them. I haven't seen my mom because she's in North Carolina, COVID, and so forth and so on. So so mom, if you're listening out there, when you come back up to New Jersey or we come to North Carolina, get it out and let's go. Going to have a baker's dozen every night because I miss that. So anyway, um, so you got into psychology. You're going for a PhD. What was your interest in that? How did you get into this?
Well, I mean, I've always been an extroverted person. I've always been a people person.
Mm,
Um, I've enjoyed helping others. And, a couple of people suggested it to me,
mhm,
when I was younger, that maybe I should, go into like this type of profession.
mhm,
Um, Human behavior has always interested me,
mhm,
just learning more about that. And so I
mhm.
think just after I took my first psychology course, like I was hooked. Um, you know, so, but then also when I get into it, I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. Um,
Yep.
so I didn't
Yeah, I'm
want
saying
to,
yes. Then you got to
yeah,
go for a bachelor's, you got to go for the master's, you got to go for a PhD, you get the doctoral degree, and
yeah,
then it never ends because there's continuing education, Nina, all the time.
yeah. So,
So it's always a lot of fun. So it's
yeah.
something that you were always interested in.
Hmm.
So let's talk about your daughters. You're having them in competitive gymnastics right now.
Mhm.
And that's huge because, as I said to you when we were off air, my son plays hockey and he plays at a tier 1 level, AAA, and it is out of control. We could be anywhere in the world at any given time, right? And I'm sure with your daughters, you're doing that. What are you teaching your daughters to succeed in gymnastics and in life?
I think that, them being involved in something is very important,
Hmm.
in terms of like them being part of a team, just having that like camaraderie,
Hmm.
building relationships with other,
Right,
children that are like around the same age,
right,
being a part of that, like knowing that people depend on them for something, then also like them being able to push themselves,
right.
to like have goals and you looking forward to something, achieving something, teaching them that,
Hmm.
challenging themselves,
Hmm.
to be successful with
Right.
something.
Yeah,
And
you
then
have to do that.
also, yeah, the physical aspect of it too. I
Right.
think that, teaching them that like the physical part of their health is something that's important.
Hmm. How old are your daughters?
Mia is 12. She's in seventh grade. And then Juliana is about to turn 9 and she's in third grade.
Wow. So they're young. I have a 12-year-old. That's James is 12 and he's about to turn 13 in 3 days. So I'm going to have a teenager,
Mhm.
yikes, in the house. And I have the same approach. I mean, you have to do something physical. You have to have a challenge and you have to be able to overcome adversity, right? Maybe you're at a gymnastics competition and it's just not there that day. You have to figure it out, right? In order to get on the mat, excuse me, and be able to overcome that. I think that sports is a very important part of emotional and physical development in
Mhm.
young children.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good thing because when I was speaking with Ian Smith, he said to me, and we're going to do a podcast on this. What did he call it? Electronic heroin, because everybody's on this, right? The kids can go
Yeah.
on this, and if you don't have them more structured, they can just go,
Mhm.
right? And there are times when I'm busy, my wife's busy, he's upstairs, and whatever particular game he's playing at that point, they could play for 5 hours, 6, 7 hours, right? And they go all day with that. I get a little upset with him, but it's very important to take them away from that, right?
Yeah. That was something that I had to monitor. Yeah, because they would stay on there all the time, like their phone or their tablet or,
All
you
day,
know,
right, Nina?
Nintendo, Xbox. There's so many different things with like the electronics. Especially, with the like Minecraft and like Roblox.
Yep.
Well, it's good for them to like be in there and be gaming with friends. I think
Mhm.
some of that is okay. But I
Right,
mean, like just with everything in moderation.
right. What we say in our house, you get up in the morning and you get your chores done, you get your schoolwork done, you get your training done, whatever all of that encompasses in for a day, whether it's in the school year or whether it is in the summertime. Hanging out with your buddies, go play some basketball, go throw a football around, and then at night, when it's all said and done, if you can keep your eyes open, you can get a little bit of that. That's usually the way I say it, but
Yeah.
they always find a little extra energy though when it comes to this. I always find that amazing. Now you're a single mom.
Hmm.
Tell us about being a single mom and having two young children, one of them embarking about being a teenager. You have to be organized, you're a strong woman, you're showing, as you say, you're an inspiration to other ladies. Talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's tough at times.
Hmm.
Just with everything that I have on my plate, with
Hmm.
working and with school, and trying to juggle everything.
Hmm.
Um, so there are times when I'm tired and I'm frustrated, and so I am self-aware of that.
Right,
I'm trying to make sure that like I'm not projecting that onto
right,
them.
right.
I have the girls, 60 to 70% of the time.
Hmm.
So, but I like that. I
Right.
like having them and being, involved. And so, I am lucky that I am in private practice right now and I can, make my schedule around like pickup times and taking them to
Right.
gymnastics and, trying to just make the most of my time. But
Right.
in order to do that, like I have to plan and I have to be really good with time management.
Right.
Um, and like not to waste time, scrolling through my phone on social media, just making sure that I'm making the most of my time. And a lot of it too is that, I feel guilty at times, like if I have to be on a telehealth session or if I have to be at the office, when it is my time to have them.
Right.
So just making sure that like the time that I do have to spend with them, that is quality time,
Right. Yeah.
and checking in with them, making sure that I'm, talking with them on an emotional level,
Hmm.
opening that door up and, teaching them that like their needs are important and their feelings are important and, making sure that they know that like they can always come to me to talk to me about something.
Right. Right. And as we say here on the podcast, we love to motivate, we like to educate, we like to inspire. That's our mantra, Nina. And and you're definitely doing that. So for those single moms or dads that are out there, it can be done. I mean, Nina's got a private practice, she's going for a PhD. Those two things in and of itself, that'll drive you crazy, right? And then add in two young kids that are active. Tonight I'm taking my son to hockey, and I worked around my schedule today. I did my telehealth in the morning. After the podcast, I have a couple of more. And then I'm gonna, he's, after he gets done with his homework, he's got some tutoring going on and so forth. It's all good, and you wouldn't have it any other way, actually, right? Because they're your children, and in large Italian families, family is very important. That's for sure.
But I mean, it's about like finding ways to connect.
Mm-hmm.
And when it might not even be like things that you think of, like, oh, I've got to like spend this amount of money and go take them to do this like really fun thing.
Right.
Like that's the only thing that is going to like show them that like they're important or that I love them and, to reward them in that way. But I mean, just little things like cooking dinner together or,
Right.
unloading the dishwasher together, like
Right.
sitting on my bed together and like folding a load of laundry and just like talking about their day.
Right, right, right. What happened? Is there anything that you need my help with?
Yeah.
Tell me a funny story. Whatever it is. I do that a lot with my son. In addition to, because you lead a busy professional life and you have to connect with them, because the alternative is not so good. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So let's go into now. You get your IFBB Pro card. How hard was that to do?
Well, I started competing in 2001,
Mhm.
and I qualified for nationals in 2004. And after I got some feedback from the judges, I took a year off from competing in 2005 and really worked on my symmetry,
Mhm.
bringing up certain parts of my physique.
Right.
So then
What
when
were
I
you
went,
lacking in? What did you need work on?
at that time, my legs were a little bit more overpowering. And so I needed to bring up my upper body, just with
Mhm.
my lats and my back. And then,
Mhm.
just building a little bit more size in my shoulders, to really match my lower body.
Mhm.
Because at that time I was competing in the figure division. The bikini division did not exist yet,
Mhm.
because that division did not come out until 2009.
Mhm.
And so when I hit the national stage, I placed, in a top placing right away. I got seventh place, and then I
Mhm.
came back and got second place, and then I went for it. I kept going,
Right.
and got first, and got my pro card, against like 40 girls in my division
Excellent.
in New York.
Right.
So
And you were in New York. You're at the NPC in New York, which is no weak division at that point, right?
yeah,
And so your children weren't born then, right? Or no, they weren't born then.
they
So
weren't
you were
born
able
yet.
to do that. How do you balance being a doctoral student, having a private clinical practice, working out and preparing and raising your children? What's your headspace? What's your mindset when it comes to this?
Yeah. It's all about prioritizing,
Mm-hmm.
and like I said, with time management, making the most of my time. So, um, you know, I have to see what works for me,
Mm-hmm.
and for me, it's, doing my cardio first thing in the morning, right after I drop the girls off at school. you
Mm-hmm.
know, then going home, getting ready, working, going to pick them up, then dropping them off. And depending on the day, sometimes I'll go back to work or I'll go back to the gym.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I can't spend, 2 to 3 hours in the gym like some competitors can.
That was my follow-up question. How do you, what do you do? How much time do you spend in the gym?
Yeah. So I have to make the most out of my time. So depending on where I am in my season, when
Mm-hmm.
I'm in my off season, I don't do very much cardio. Like right
Mm-hmm.
now, I'm not doing cardio.
Mm-hmm.
I'm only lifting.
Right.
And so I don't up the cardio until I'm getting closer to a competition.
Mm-hmm.
And so really it's about kind of rolling into an off season, going back into like an active on season when I'm prepping for a show,
Mm-hmm.
and then adjusting my schedule accordingly.
Right. So in the off season, how many times a week are you working out now?
Like 4 to 5.
4 to 5. And
Yeah.
what do you pick, a body part a day, and you do a body part a day?
Yeah. I'm splitting it up, by
Mm-hmm.
body part. For me, with bikini,
Mm-hmm.
I focus a little bit more on my glutes. And so I'm doing that, 2 to 3 times a week.
Mm-hmm.
And then doing shoulders and back. And then I might, just like sprinkle in some other exercises. Because I've been doing this for so long, like I don't really need more size like in my legs or more size in like my arms. And
Right.
so, like I have the luxury to, just focus on those other body parts that I need to stay strong.
Right. So let me ask you a question, because you know, my partner at Suburban Wellness Group, he is a former bodybuilder, and he was on the national stage. He trained some Mr. Universe champions and so forth and so on. And I always ask him this question. And I grew up with him, so I find it amazing that he did this. How is it, and you're in bikini, so they're looking at every little centimeter, right, Nina? How does that feel when they're critiquing you and your physique, your body? For some people that could be very how can I say, it could be very daunting, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, like I take it and it motivates me to do better.
Excellent. Right.
Like it's all around like your thought process. Like, okay, like sometimes like that constructive criticism or like that negative feedback that you get might be a little bit hard to hear, to handle to begin with.
Hmm.
But then you're like, okay, what can I do about it? What
Right.
can I control?
Right.
So what do I need to focus on moving forward in order to improve and to do better? If
Right.
I'm not happy with, placing at a show,
Hmm.
okay, what do I need to do differently moving forward so that this
Hmm.
doesn't happen again?
Right. Absolutely. So what are your goals for 2021 when it comes to competing?
I mean, I haven't, started my season yet.
Hmm.
So, whenever I decide to start prepping for that, I mean, my goal is just to do better than I have previously.
Hmm.
Like I can't compare myself to other girls. I have to focus on,
Hmm.
okay, what has my best physique looked like thus far?
Hmm.
What do I need to continue to improve on? And like, how can I beat myself? How can I beat my best?
Right.
So, how can I place higher than I did the last time?
Right.
Um,
Absolutely.
of course, what I want to do eventually is like, I want to qualify for the Olympia. Like, I want to be on that stage. Like, that's one of my goals.
The Olympia is the big one, right?
Yeah.
That's the big one. And you know, something tells me you're going to do very well when you get up there.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about COVID. What have you had to do? Did you have to pivot professionally? Did you have to pivot a little bit when it came down to working out? Because COVID, really, the pandemic came in and it just kind of turned everything upside down. What did you do to overcome those obstacles?
Um, yeah, at first it was hard, because here they closed the gyms.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I had to adjust with that,
Right.
just incorporating more, home workouts. When it first happened back in March, I was actually 2 weeks out from a show
Really?
and I had already been prepping for 10 weeks.
Oh,
And then
wow.
and then they canceled that show.
Nice.
And so, I felt discouraged. Here I had spent, all of that time and that energy, like getting ready for the show. And then, they canceled it and I was 2 weeks out.
Wow.
Um, and so, but, I had to take a look at it and recognize that that was something that was completely outside of my control.
Right.
I couldn't do anything about it.
Right.
I didn't give up and, let that completely throw me off track with it.
Hmm.
So it's all about my thought process and like my mindset with that. And so of course, like I enjoyed, a couple cheat meals and then, I got back on it. And then I looked forward to, being able to get back on stage again.
All right.
Um,
So the question I have here is, what does a bikini pro and what does she eat as a cheat meal? That's what I think our listeners are looking at right now. What do you mean? What do you mean she's cheating? There's no way she's got like the perfect physique and all of that. What is your cheat meal?
my favorite thing to eat, like when I have a cheat or like a refeed, sometimes we'll call it that,
Yeah.
is like, of course, pizza.
I was just gonna say I had pizza last night. Shh,
Yeah.
shh, don't
But
tell
I
anybody.
love
It was
I love
homemade too. So shh.
I love eating like a cheeseburger and fries or, like having like an old fashioned like chocolate covered donut, just
Right.
something that, people would think that like I would never eat.
Right.
Um, but and I've gotten to the point too where like I can eat that and like not feel guilty about it.
Right.
And know that like that's not gonna totally throw me off and I can go back on, prep and be okay and like not feel
Right.
guilty
Sure.
about that. So
Because I mean, for our listeners out there, it depends upon your individual case, and everybody's different. Sometimes it's okay to have those cheat meals. It's not as bad. It's not as bad as you think it is, and as long as you're not eating pizza every day for lunch and hamburgers and fries every day,
yeah.
for dinner, we have a place here, Italian restaurant that really makes really good pizza. So
Yeah.
whenever I drive by, Nina, it's like there's the urge, and they make good hamburgers too. My son likes their hamburgers, so it's really good. So when you're in your prep, what's your diet like? What's your nutrition like?
It's a lot of whole foods, high protein, and
Hmm.
complex carbohydrates,
Hmm.
and then making sure that I'm also taking in enough, like green vegetables.
Hmm.
Um, you know, so we do go into like a calorie deficit when we're getting close to the show because of course, like I get my body fat down like very low,
What does your
um,
body fat go to?
down to about 7 or 8%.
Right. That's what we usually do with who I'm working with nutritionally. We try to get that 7%. That seems to be a magic number.
Yeah. And that's not something that I maintain, long term.
It's
You know,
very tough to maintain 7% body fat for extended periods of time.
yeah. So, and I make sure that I'm, taking enough supplements so that I'm not, depriving my body of like the nutrients that it needs. And so, I'll take, extra vitamin, C, D,
Hmm.
B, E. Uh,
Hmm.
I mean, I take a good, I actually take a prenatal vitamin that has like a good amount of iron in it.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a lot of iron that you need then at that point.
Yeah.
So now you also are a fitness coach, right? You're helping individuals out, lifestyle changes. You and I are in the business of making positive lifestyle changes. You're making customized meal plans, making those recommendations for supplements, workout programs, and so forth and so on. What is that like for you? And what type of clients generally come see you for that?
Mostly with that, I, will take on like clients that are getting ready for shows.
Hmm.
I have had, some clients that, just want to focus on like getting healthier and like,
Right.
toning up. Um, sometimes if people have, some medical issues that I might think is like outside of my scope of practice, then I'll
Hmm.
involve, a physician or a
Hmm.
dietitian and, just help them more with like behavioral adherence
Right.
to,
Sure.
um, what they're doing. So, but yeah, I mean, I've, taught aerobics and been a personal trainer. And so, I've had a lot of experience, myself, working at gyms
Sure.
and that. And
You
so,
are truly a Renaissance woman. You've done it all just about, right? You've done it all. So you have an ebook. Tell us about your ebook.
um, the ebook that I have is just that one so far. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so it's like a 12-week program, focused on, helping women to like reshape their lower body and like their glutes.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people, don't really know like how to build their glutes.
Mm-hmm.
Just to focus on like rounding them out, like reshaping them, like what exercises that they need to do to kind of focus on that. Genetically, like I was a person that was not blessed with having a good butt. Um, I,
Right.
I had to build one.
Right.
I was more, quad dominant, like I had bigger legs, but didn't
Hey,
have big of a, um, glute area. And so I had to figure out kind of what worked for me to like just really build my glutes.
right. I understand. Interesting. So you have that 12-week, as you call it, the booty building guide to
Mhm.
help individuals out. And you also have exercise equipment. Tell us about that. I
Yeah.
find this interesting.
Yeah. So I came out with my first like hip band, which is,
Hmm.
used for like glute exercises. It's an anti-slip. It's made out of like really thick fabric. Um, I honestly was tired of using like the rubber
Hmm.
bands and being in the middle of an exercise and feeling like it wasn't offering enough resistance for me. Or just literally like I would be in the middle of an exercise and it would snap in half and like fling across the gym. Not that some of those bands like aren't good, but just
Right.
the quality of them like long term. Like I was going through like several of those bands.
Right.
Um, so I wanted to come out with a product that was stylish,
Hmm.
um, and that was quality that would last. That wasn't going to be destroying my gym clothes when I had it on, and was going to stay in place and was going to offer me the amount of resistance that I needed when I was doing
Right.
exercises.
Well, you have really done it all. There's no doubt. You've done it all. You're going for a PhD, you're a single mom, you're an entrepreneur, you're helping individuals out. So you are truly an inspiration to all of us out there. So thank you for that. I mean, that's really phenomenal. You are somebody to look up to and to aspire to being for whoever's listening here, because clearly Nina is doing it all. We used to make fun back in the day. Yeah, I do it all. I do it all. Nina is clearly doing it all. Our time is almost done, believe it or not. And this has gone, pretty quick. And I think that we're just scratching the surface. So, look for a phone call in a couple of months to get you back on to continue on the conversation. What advice would you give single moms?
Um, you know, I think what I would say to them is um, it's going to be okay, and that you can do this, and that, you don't have to be everything for everybody, and you're not superwoman, you know. Um, on the outside, like I might look like I always have it together,
Hmm.
but sometimes that's not the case.
Right.
Like sometimes, like I have to take that time for myself for self care, and
Hmm.
I need to know when to say no.
Right.
And I think that that's what they need to know too. Like that it's okay for them to say no, that they can't do everything, that they can't take on everything, that it's okay for them to ask for help,
Hmm.
and to not feel guilty about that.
I think that's great advice, and I think that's a great way to conclude this particular podcast. That was great. So, if individuals want to contact you, they're looking for perhaps counseling, telehealth, they want to go into a show, or they just want to get healthy. How do they contact you, Nina?
I mean, they can contact me through my Instagram page,
Hmm.
so or they can email me as well.
Email you, and we could put your email in the show notes.
Oh yes, for sure.
Okay, so I'll put the email in the show notes. Do you have a website that they can go to also?
I do. It's ninaditomaso.com.
NinaDiTommaso.com. DiTommaso, love that. So Nina, Thank you very much. This was a very interesting conversation. You are very inspirational. You've had to overcome a fair amount, and you're successful, and you're helping yourself and you're helping others out, which is something that can be commendable. So I thank you for that, and I thank you for being on today.
Thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed the opportunity.
Absolutely. We're going to have you back on. There's so much more I think that we can uncover with Nina. So I want to thank everybody for listening. It's really great to have all of our friends listening in. We have these great guests. Nina is, phenomenal guest, very inspirational. I'm Dr. Dan, Suburban Wellness Group.com, 973-483-2277, or greenleafbewell.com. I want to thank everybody for listening in today. Thank you very much, Nina, and we will see all the next time around. Take care.